Welcome to the Cedar Park United podcast. The beloved 23rd Psalm helps us to explore God's shepherding presence through life's darkest valleys and across the bridges to a faithful future. As a community about to begin a new chapter as Reverend Elisabeth's retirement approaches, we're faced with the question, how will we bridge the gap between this chapter and the next? All the cumulative stories of our faith found in Scripture and in our experience point to a dynamic movement between memory and hope. When faced with an uncertain future, a good instinct is to look back, to see where we come from, and to see in these journeys of the past the presence of God, particularly as this psalm characterizes God as a good shepherd.
So today the reflection around this text actually began about 10 days ago with the Midrash group finding some of the questions that we asked this morning. And overall, finding such goodness and richness in these 6 short verses. It's one of the shortest psalms, and yet there's so much in it. We continued to turn the text on Tuesday this week when we gathered representatives of our finance and sustainability groups and some board leadership and others, including some staff, to continue the conversation we actually began back at the annual meeting, which is how Cedar Park gets from here, basically here, we may as well call it now, it's the end of my time, through the transitions that will bring you safe and ready for the next chapter of a future ministry shared with a new minister. And as you know, we've set some markers already, some pretty tangible markers, some embodied markers. I'm going to begin first with the community compass, with its attention to, you can feel the 4 points here, our worship and spiritual life that shares worship and theology and our progressive, affirming way of understanding God. So that's our progressive beacon, as widely as possible, which is why we get to say hello to people in Bromont and people north of London and people when you go east to be in the Maritimes. We can say hello then so that we can spread this good news as far as we can. Also, how we get to be in our neighborhood for this generation, a radically welcoming community that cares, and trying to do that in every facet of our community life. And then you can tell, because we gathered with people from our finance and sustainability group, how to do all of that as sustainably and wisely as possible. So that's one, and it's guiding all of our deliberations in the board and as a staff. The second one, the sermon illustration over here, the appointment that we made last fall for Jessica to come with her skill set, which is strong in pastoral. That's sheepdoggy work, right? Yes. It's okay. I think of myself as a sheepdog that's getting a bit grizzled around the muzzle. She's got way more speed than me. Whoa. Okay. So yes, Jessica coming in, and the point about Jessica being with us for this 18-month period is to particularly do that bridge pastorally so that there is someone who can be with you through valleys as well as the high points, but also a continuity in worship too, until you're ready to call your new minister. So that's 2 of them. And then the third one, it is a big one, and that's how to fund the transition, or to put it another way, how to bridge the gap. This is the work of art that happened, was it actually during the ACM? Okay, just before the annual meeting, right? So one of our, I think John is 10 now. to build a bridge that actually it's structurally, he's got a future in engineering. Look at this. It's pretty good. So how do we bridge from one chapter to the next? How do you do that? So one of the things that I am struck with all of Scripture is that there are many, many moments of crisis and decision of, do we step back in fear or do we take a step forward in hope? And so there's this rhythm all the way through Scripture about, okay, you're at a decision point. Let's look back for a minute. Look at where we have been, and look at the things we have been and the things we have done, and see in that memory the shepherding, guiding presence of God. All the way from Otto Lily, all the way down to the newest baby in our midst. How has God been shepherding? So this movement to go, let's look back first, see God, and based on what we know, we start to dream and hope a future with God. So there's this movement all the time through the prophets, even in this psalm as well, from memory to hope. So this is our third time now in a community where we are getting to this text. What I'm going to ask you to do, and I am aware that this morning, 50 years in the church, 20 minutes in the church, right? So we've got very different memories. Some of us have got memories that go a long way back. But what we want to do, and this is Paul Clark's idea. Yes, I'm going to make a public statement about this. For 14 years, Paul would say to me, he would come to church and he'd walk in the door, and if he saw Post-it notes, he'd go, oh. It's not his thing. But he's a faithful member of the community, and he didn't turn around and walk out. He would stay. For whatever Revy did with the blessed Post-it notes this time. So on Tuesday, when Paul said, we could put Post-it notes up of our memories. Do you think I'm going to let that one go? So Paul, it's on him. So that's why you got Post-it notes. For the online people, let me just talk to you for a minute. You've got chat function in YouTube. You can use that, but I know not all of you do. But you know how to reach us by email, so you can send us emails too. What are those high and low points of your past? Beyond, before me and during, we could name just a few, a couple of world wars, a global pandemic, too many floods to count. Those are the valley times, but what about all of the wonderful times, too? The times when this congregation emerged from crisis into another chapter of goodness, right? So in the psalm, there's this line about goodness and mercy shall follow me. The word really should be pursue you. Like it's coming up and say, do you remember? Listen, do you remember? That sort of pursuing, right? So that's what we want to capture on that. So we're going to give those of you with memory a chance to write something down or draw it and put it on your Post-it note and bring it up here. And Paul, because this is Paul's idea, he's going to make sure you all have a Post-it note, and if you can't bring it up, he's going to bring it up as well. He's gone bright red, poor man. And we'll take about 3 minutes for this, because we want to remember before we look forward. All right? Let's go.
So, when we look back, we can see it. We can see God's shepherding presence, guiding this community through seasons of flourishing and hope, of deep valleys and unexpected renewal. Each chapter a mix of rest and risk. Each chapter rooted in care and carried forward by hope. And now, here we are at the edge of another chapter. We're not quite where we were, and we're not where we are going yet. And that is where this image of a bridge starts becoming so powerful. Because a bridge does not erase the valley. It spans it. It doesn't make the journey easy, but it does give us a way. And we do not cross alone. We move together, guided by the same shepherd who has brought us this far. So at our annual congregational meeting, we looked at the road ahead. We acknowledged then, for 3.5 hours, that it is daunting. And we asked ourselves and each other, can we really do this? Will we make it across? But we remembered, and we continue to remember, the faith of those who came before. People just like us, people who trusted that each one of us has a role to play in making God's dream come true, even through all of the unknowns. Our ancestors in faith, the ones 2,000 years ago, the ones throughout the centuries, and the ones who founded Lily Memorial Presbyterian Church, and even more recently, they built a legacy. They built the bridges that we walked across to get to where we are right now. So here is a reminder. Psalm 23, it doesn't finish in the valley. Instead, it continues. You prepare a table before me. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life. And it moves us towards what will be a home for us here and now, not just some day in heaven. So that's the vision that we're given to share. It's not just surviving, it is celebration in the many senses of that word. It's a table that is wide enough to hold both the beauty and the brokenness of the world, and it is the longest table, a community where mercy is not just a word, it's a way of being. And now, because I haven't preached very much about gardening yet, but it's a hobby horse, as you will soon find out. Some things take time, like the columbines and the hellebore and the asparagus in my garden, all of which are finally in glorious flower, and we're eating delicious asparagus every night. And like the cherry tree that is blooming for the first time this year. But none of them would be flourishing if I hadn't planted them a few years ago. And the beauty that is feeding my body and spirit today was planted in trust and hope long before any of it was visible. So I would like you now to take a moment again and imagine the other side of the bridge. What do you see? What kind of ministries might be waiting? What kind of future is God dreaming with us? So take another post-it, Paul, and write words or draw pictures, images. Express your hopes and dreams and vision for Cedar Park United's next chapter. Because that's how we're going to start building the bridge, is naming the vision.
You're the sermonator today, you are. She said more hope than memory is good. It's beautiful. It really is beautiful. It's tangible. And in a world where there's an awful lot trying to tell us there's no point in hoping about anything, we have news for the world, right? We sure do. So just 3 things to say, just to wrap this up. This is a faith community. We do all sorts of things that welcome people in who maybe don't share that faith, but that is where we were born. That is our DNA. That is why we exist. And this shows you that God's been part of your story for 125 years. And your story is part of a story that goes back hundreds and then thousands of years of human community going from memory to hope, trying to help other people do exactly the same thing. You've got this because my little chapter is tiny in all of this. But you've got this to move from memory to hope. And I did make some funny comment, but yes, those of us who are in this calling, we should never believe that we are shepherds. There is God who is shepherd. God who is shepherd in a majestic and infinite and mysterious way, but one who also comes to us in Jesus to really show us what that looks like. My job is a sheepdog. And there are times when it feels like you are cats. Which is good, because that sort of independence of spirit, known in the feline species, is not a bad one to have. But that's been my job, and it is time for me to stop, and it is time for you to find a new shepherd. And the whole point about the Bridge Fund is so that you can do this. And the way we described it on Tuesday was, you're here, well, let's do it this way. You're here, you want to get to there. There is a gap in between. You can go all the way down to the bottom of the gap and scrabble through the mud and the water and the weeds and the lost boots, and then you can scramble up the other side and crawl out panting, wet and grubby, while your new minister says, okay, let's go, and you're going. Or you can choose to make a bridge that makes that journey less strenuous. It's hard to do it now, but it will make your future start so much more robustly. So I think Peter on the golf course, sustainability lead, Richmond down there, that was my job today, to say that's what the Bridge Fund is for. And you will hear more about this in the coming weeks. It's already showing up on the website. But I was not going to do we need help with the Bridge Fund. What I wanted to do is what we have done together today. We bridge from memory to hope together. And there's more in my notes, but I'm not going to say it, other than God is our shepherd. We lack for nothing. We lack for nothing. And that vision of a table God sets for us in the midst of our future, in the midst of a complicated world, that's where you're going. Allez-y.